Hey guys, what's up? My name is Zach, and today we're going to be doing a 2020 election prediction between Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. So most of you probably know, or at least have an idea of who Bill Clinton is. He's the former U.S. Vice President during the 1990s. He is a Democrat. He oversaw the longest period of economic growth in the United States, and overall with a relatively high approval rating despite a sex scandal during late in his presidency. And today we're going to be seeing how he would do in a presidential election against Donald Trump. Alright, so as most of you can probably tell, I do not have a new mic setup as I said I would today. I tried playing around with the mic settings in my computer, but it didn't really make too much of a difference, if any. I should get an actual microphone by tomorrow, at least hopefully, and that should change things pretty for the better, I think. But until then, this is just what we're going to have to deal with. I don't think it's too bad. So Bill Clinton, I think, will have a number of obstacles running against Trump, namely his last name. I think that Trump could easily tie him to his wife. However, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are two very different people, and I think that Bill Clinton can do a good enough job at distinguishing himself from his spouse, which I think would be a legitimate obstacle for him to overcome if he was a candidate in 2020. So first off, Arkansas, although that is Bill Clinton's home state, I think that it'd be solid red in Trump's column. And this is because although Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, he has since then moved to New York and has very, very little ties to the South. Southern appeal will be a slight factor for Bill Clinton, just as it was for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but it will not be anything strong enough to make Arkansas anything but solid. If I was being very generous, I would make Arkansas likely in Trump's column, but honestly, I don't see a single chance of this state going blue if Bill Clinton was on the ticket. And this is and like I said before, his ties to Hillary Clinton are a big factor in my logic there, and as it will be for most states that I'll be calling. So let's just switch the color palette. Virginia, I would consider to be likely in Bill Clinton's column, and this is mostly because Bill Clinton is, for the most part, seen as a typical Democrat. He is very, very centrist. Well, I mean, maybe he's not so much of a typical Democrat as he is more of a conservative Democrat. I would define Bill Clinton more as a conservative Democrat, looking at his presidency, but most people wouldn't. Most people would just describe him as a moderate. And moderate Democrats, as I've said before, do very well in Virginia. I think that Bill Clinton would absolutely peak Democratic turnout, along with some moderate Republican turnout. I think that Bill Clinton would have a pretty decent would do pretty decently at appealing to moderate Republicans as a result of his centrist appeal and just people remembering him from his the economic progress he caused or oversaw during the 90s when he was president. And I think there'll be a big factor in Virginia, along with most other places across the country, which we'll get to soon. New Mexico and Colorado are both considered to be likely in Bill Clinton's column for virtually the same reason as Virginia, solid Democratic base in both these states, which Bill Clinton, of all people, can absolutely turn out. And just to clarify, if Bill Clinton didn't have Clinton as his last name and had no ties to Hillary Clinton whatsoever, he would do much better. I can easily see states like New Mexico and Virginia moving from likely to solid. However, Bill Clinton's last name and his ties to Hillary Clinton, which the Republican Party can absolutely use against him, would be a factor that would kind of negate the positive factors he has. Like, if it wasn't for his last name, he would absolutely have much higher moderate Democratic turnout, and maybe he can flip states like Arizona just from that moderate Republican turnout that he would be getting. However, having the last name Clinton and being tied to Hillary Clinton would cost him a significant number of moderate Republicans, which would cause him to do a whole lot worse in this election scenario. If this election scenario was done without considering Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton would do a whole lot better, but I digress. Going down to Texas and Georgia, I consider both these states to be likely in Trump's column. The only reason that they're not solid is because of Bill Clinton's Southern appeal, which would not be enough to flip these states, but combined with Southern appeal, combined with some moderate Republican appeal, those two factors could override, hypothetically speaking, those two factors could override his lack of Hispanic appeal and his lack of African American appeal to put these states likely in Trump's column rather than solid. So that's my logic with calling both these states. New Hampshire and Mexico's two electoral votes, I would both consider to be likely in Bill Clinton's column. I think that his ties to Hillary Clinton will be a bit of an obstacle for him in the Northeast, especially an area that had much resentment toward Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election, despite the fact that it went to her for the most part. But still, this region does not see Hillary Clinton very well, and I think that Bill Clinton would have that as an obstacle. However, his appeal to moderate Republicans could just negate each other against his ties to Hillary Clinton and his moderate Republican appeal. Those two things could just collide together to make these two areas likely in his column. That's my logic for the most part when calling typically safe Democratic states for Bill Clinton. Going over to Minnesota, I'd also call that likely in Bill Clinton's column. I think he could absolutely have strong appeal to moderate Republicans. I don't think that there's a strong resentment towards Hillary Clinton in this area as much as the Northeast and as much as in the South, but I think that Bill Clinton would absolutely turn out a significant number of moderate Republicans and maybe some progressives as well. I don't see progressive turnout being a huge factor, considering that Bill Clinton is by no means a progressive, but still, I consider this state to be likely in Bill Clinton's column. Going over to Michigan, I'd also consider this state to be likely in Bill Clinton's column. I think that Bill Clinton's record, especially on economic growth, would appeal very strongly to the suburban areas in this state. And Bill Clinton's presidential record would absolutely be a huge factor in his ability to do very well in this election scenario. Oh, and also, before I go any further, before someone starts commenting down below, I do realize that Bill Clinton is not eligible to run for the presidency. That's obvious. This is all just hypothetical. Everything I do in this election is hypothetical, just to see how they would unroll as a result of our nation's demographics. Just want to make that clear if you're new to my channel. Now going over to Pennsylvania, I'd call this state likely in Bill Clinton's column, and this is virtually for the same reason that I called Michigan, just strong economic background. Like I said before, Bill Clinton had the highest, or strongest rather, economic growth of any U.S. president in history, and that would absolutely be a strong record for him to campaign on. I mean, many pundits say that Trump's the state of the economy, the state of the economy under Trump would be a big benefit for Trump in the 2020 election. However, if someone like Bill Clinton, who has a past of an even stronger economic growth, were on the side of the Democrats' ticket, that would not be so much of an argument for Trump, and that'd be a big benefit for the Democrats and Bill Clinton if he were on the ticket as well. Going over to leans, I would consider Wisconsin to be leaning in Bill Clinton's column, and this is solely or mostly for the reason that of his last name. I think that the fact that he is Hillary Clinton's husband would turn off a number of moderate Republicans in the state. I do think that Bill Clinton would score a number of moderate Republicans in Wisconsin, and I think that Trump's low approval in Wisconsin and throughout the Rust Belt will be a big factor as well. However, I think that a number of moderate Republicans would just vote for Trump out of resentment against the Clintons. And also, it's not just that moderate Republican turnout for Trump isn't just because of Bill Clinton's last name. He is very much tied to the Clinton Foundation, which many moderate Republicans see as corrupt and just evil in most ways, because the Republican Party has done a very good job at painting it in that way, and Bill Clinton is absolutely tied to the Clinton Foundation. So that'd be a big obstacle for him as well. Just general ties to corruption and elitism as well will be a big factor. Just the Republicans painting Bill Clinton as an elitist. Whether or not that's true or not, I'm not going to comment, obviously, but they would absolutely, if Bill Clinton was on the ticket, the Republican Party would absolutely paint him as an elitist and would absolutely use his ties to Hillary Clinton to bog him down even more. And this would absolutely be a factor in Wisconsin, which should be likely in Bill Clinton's column, as most of the Rust Belt is, but is not because of those moderate Republicans, which would vote out of resentment against Bill Clinton. Going over to Nevada, I consider this state to be leaning in Bill Clinton's column as well. This is really the same logic as Wisconsin. A strong number of moderate Republicans and moderates in general who would vote for Trump out of resentment towards Bill Clinton and the Clintons in general, and would go to Trump despite. And Trump's approval also has been going up in this state, so that would also be a factor as well. So I'd call this state leaning in Bill Clinton's column for all those reasons. Again, should be likely in his column, but because of his past and his ties to Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and just Democratic elitism in general, it would go into the leaning column. Going over to Iowa, I would call this state leaning in Trump's column. I think that Bill Clinton could have a shot at winning this state. However, as I said repeatedly throughout this video, his ties to Hillary Clinton, his ties to the Clinton Foundation, and his Democratic elitist status would turn off a number of voters, and especially moderates in the state, and I can easily see Trump winning by solid margins, probably not as high as he won in 2016, but I could still see him winning the state against Bill Clinton for those reasons. Going over to Maine second, I would call this district leaning in Bill Clinton's column, and this is really for the same reason that I would call New Hampshire and Maine's 2 electoral votes likely in Bill Clinton's column, because this second district has an even stronger Republican identity compared to the rest of the Northeast, which is why it mostly goes to the Republicans in most election predictions, and they would absolutely have resentment towards Bill Clinton and the Clintons in general, and it'd go to Trump leaning. Going down to Florida, this state's kind of tricky, but I would call it leaning in Bill Clinton's column. Again, I think that Bill Clinton's economic record would be a big thing for him to run on, and I think could absolutely draw turnout in Florida. However, I think that Florida has a very strong resentment towards the Clintons in general, as we saw in 2016. I think that moderate Republicans would flock to Trump, even if they don't approve of him, they would go to him and vote for him instead of Bill Clinton, just because of Bill Clinton's last name and his ties to the Clintons in general. That I think would cost him the state. Florida and many other states throughout the United States have a very strong resentment towards Democratic elitists, and that's why it would be very foolish for the Democrats to nominate someone like Bill Clinton, like Andrew Cuomo, who I did a video about yesterday, someone who is a well-known elitist, someone who is a well-known Nancy Pelosi type Democrat. That would be very, very foolish for them to nominate someone like that. However, Bill Clinton may be a Democratic elitist in most regards, or is at least seen as one by the general public, but he has a very strong economic past and a very strong record as a president, and that override, I think, that resentment for the most part, which is why, as you can see, he's already winning by eight electoral votes. We're not done yet. Going over to North Carolina, I think that Bill Clinton's Southern appeal will be somewhat of a factor in this state. However, I think that Trump would win it, mostly as a result of those moderate Republicans. I think that Bill Clinton would take a good chunk of those moderate Republicans to his side, but I think that that number of them would vote for Trump out of spite of Bill Clinton, and I think they'll become pretty close in the state when you're considering Bill Clinton's Southern appeal as well, but still, I call it leaning in Trump's column. Going over to Arizona, I call this leaning in Trump's column as well, and again, as I said repeatedly, this is mostly because this state is dominated by moderate Republicans to start off with. It's dominated by moderate Republicans, which is the main reason why it is such a low approval of Trump. However, those moderate Republicans will vote for Trump, or at least most of them will vote for Trump over someone like Bill Clinton. I think that a significant number of them, or at least a decent number of them, I don't know about over 50%, but I think a decent number of moderate Republicans in Arizona would vote for Bill Clinton as a result of his economic background, which is the main reason why the state is leaning and not likely in Trump's column. However, again, Bill Clinton, seen as Democratic elitist, would turn off a number of Arizona Republicans, and the state would go leaning in Trump's column. Going over to Nebraska second, I'd call this leaning in Trump's column as well. And again, Bill Clinton's elitist status, I feel like a broken record, but really, this is the main factor which would make him not such a great candidate for the Democrats in 2016, as you're starting to see now. So that second district will go to Trump as a result of those moderate Republicans. And then Ohio, the very last state, I think that Bill Clinton would absolutely do very well in this state, mostly as a result of his economic background. I can easily see him pulling over a decent amount of moderate Republicans to his side, just like he would do throughout the Rust Belt. However, I'm going to call it leaning in Trump's column, and this is really because we saw this state go very, very solidly in Trump's column, especially for a swing state in the election between him and Hillary Clinton in 2016. And this was mostly because Hillary Clinton was painted as a Democratic elitist and painted as a Nancy Pelosi Democrat. And I'm not saying that's the reason why she lost the election, period. I think it's an absolutely contributing factor, but I think that's the main reason why she lost Ohio, because Ohio resented her because Trump was able to very, very well paint her as an elitist and paint her as corrupt, which I think is the main reason why I won the election, is because he was able to make her seem so corrupt and so unlikable. I think that's the main reason why Trump won in 2016 in general, but I think that if he's running against Bill Clinton, he would absolutely use that same campaigning strategy against Bill Clinton that he used against Hillary Clinton, which would be the main reason why he would win the state. Alright, so this is the election prediction. Overall, in case I haven't made myself clear enough, Bill Clinton would do poorly. He would still win, mostly because he was a president before and he had the strongest economic numbers of any president, but he would do poorly compared to most other Democrats because of his Democratic elitist status and because of his ties to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation itself, which has his name on it. And I think that for those reasons, he would do poorly throughout the United States. If it wasn't for that, he can easily flip states like Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Iowa, Arizona. I can easily see these states moving into his column because he would have so much more stronger moderate Republican turnout. And that's what people suspect with Hillary, or wanted with Hillary Clinton when they nominated her. They wanted her to have the strong moderate Republican appeal because of her ties to Bill Clinton. But that didn't happen because Trump was able to paint her as an elitist, and that turned off those moderate Republicans that she needed. And I think that Bill Clinton would absolutely repeat those same flaws, but would still win, as you can see here. So overall, Bill Clinton's chance of winning, I'd say, would be about 55%, and Trump's would be about 45%, so pretty close. Alright, so if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below. As I said before, I'm working on the mic situation. Hopefully the sound is bearable. I think it is. I've listened to it a few times. I think it's, for the most part, okay. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. It's the only way for small channels like mine to grow. And I hope you guys have a good day. See ya.